This is your main man RJ from the Ringside Rant, heard only on the Visionaries Wrestling Network. So go over and subscribe across all your major platforms, iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, and Stitcher to hear every great interview I have every Monday on the Visionaries Wrestling Network. Go over and follow the show's page on Twitter @_Ringside Rant. Follow the network's page @BizWrestleNet. And, as always, embrace the vision.
And we're back with episode 98 of The Sounds of Struggle. I'm Chris Parrish, and once again, I am flying solo, just due to, real life getting in the way. Meniac and I could not meet up this week, so I am running episode 98 all by myself today, and we're gonna call it the pool party episode. That's right, because we are dedicating this to one Jesse Pulj, who wears number 98 in the NHL, because that is our thing. Kind of a busy week right now for WWE, as a lot is going on, and to kick things off, we're going to start with the big news: Roman Reigns relinquishing the Universal title, because he mentions on Monday Night Raw and reveals to the entire world that his leukemia that he had defeated at the age of 22 has returned, and he cannot fulfill his obligations as champion, relinquishes the title, walks out, goes home to be with his family, and to put his health as his top priority, and pretty much something that completely shocked the world, as I think everyone who reacts to Roman Reigns as, I don't want this guy as a champion, also are the first people to say that's not at all how we'd want to see him let go of the title. Best wishes to Roman Reigns, Joe Anawi. Anawi, I think is how you say his last name. But yeah, best of luck, best of wishes. Hopefully a speedy recovery for him, and I hope to God we can see him back in a WWE ring very soon, but most importantly, hope he just recovers, because it's not easy to go through that. So yeah, all the best, and we hope that he recovers and is back into the squared circle once again, because we would love to see him back in the ring so we can either boo or cheer him, which I can't see him not getting the biggest positive reaction in the world if and when he comes back. But moving on, because as Monday Night Raw and as the WWE is concerned, the show must go on, and the Sounds of Struggle is no different, because we fast forward all the way to the main event of Monday Night Raw, where we saw the two remaining members of the Shield, Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins, take on the Raw Tag Team Champions and Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre, and in a shocking way, I would assume. Not that the end result was shocking. We've kind of have understood that they were setting up for a Dean Ambrose heel turn for a while now, but just the timing of it, where we saw new tag team champions crowned in Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose. Dean Ambrose kicks Dirty Deeds Seth Rollins right after the win, gets on top, mountain punches, throws him out, beats up on Rollins outside, pulls off the protective layer on the floor, Dirty Deeds onto the floor, and then rips off his Shield shirt, throws it in the ring, and leaves through the crowd. Many wondering why. Of all nights, why that night? And quite honestly, I think it honestly was one of the most well-played heel turns that we've seen in a while, because your emotions are so high at this point. And even though, as a fan, you could expect something like this, all the seeds were planted, you just didn't think they would go there then. And they did. And I think that actually took you more off surprise, just because you didn't think they would do it then. And because of that, they brought in that real emotion. And what I thought was very interesting was the entire time that Dean Ambrose was beating up on Seth Rollins, he was yelling stuff to him. At one point, he even took both Raw Tag titles and the Intercontinental title and threw them at Seth Rollins and be like, "Here, is this what you wanted?" Just made me realize that this story was actually more about Dean Ambrose feeling that Seth Rollins was just wanting him to help him gain individual success and not for the better part of the team. So it's going to be very interesting to see where that goes. There's also things saying Dean Ambrose wanted Seth Rollins to say it again, time in and time out. I didn't make up what he said. I just heard Seth Rollins say, "I'm sorry." So it's going to be very interesting to see what layers are revealed this coming Monday on the next episode of Monday Night Raw. Because this whole thing is actually very curious, and it's very personal in the sense of we saw Roman Reigns leave due to his reasons, and then now we saw the explosion of the team that is Ambrose and Rollins. So the Shield as a whole, again, is no more. And then now we get individual kind of separation in a way. And it's going to be very cool to see the evolution as Dean Ambrose as a heel moving forward now. With that said, that wasn't the only turn we saw on Monday Night Raw, because as Paul Heyman was in the ring hyping the now singles match at Crown Jewel for the Universal title, as it is now Braun Strowman versus Brock Lesnar, we saw Braun Strowman interrupt Heyman, and he was getting cheered and said as soon as Roman Reigns beats leukemia, he has the first shot at the Universal title. But with that being said, it seems like Braun Strowman is now once again a main event babyface, and he's going to be the main babyface going into that match. But what's also interesting is he also now has a program set with Drew McIntyre, as Drew McIntyre actually ran out and did the Claymore kick onto Strowman during this promo, which resulted in Braun Strowman actually coming out and taking care of Drew McIntyre, so Dolph Ziggler is left to take the pin, and then the chaos that followed suit after that match. So it seems like they're already planting their matches for the show after Crown Jewel, so it looks like it's going to be Drew McIntyre versus Braun Strowman in probably a Universal title feud. And then we will have Seth Rollins up against Dean Ambrose, presumably for the Intercontinental Championship. And then, in a different way, we had Elias smash a guitar over Baron Corbin's back when Baron Corbin tried to restrain Elias and not let him perform after a victory over Apollo Crews. So it looks like we're getting the makings of an Elias Baron Corbin feud, which should be very interesting going into Survivor Series. And it just seems that we could see something brewing between those two as well. So I think it's going to be very much a team Angle versus team Corbin scenario, but I think Elias is now going to be on the team Angle side in that one. So very interesting on the Raw end. We also saw Alicia Fox kind of take the place of Alexa Bliss in that which seems to be in that tag match for this Sunday's Evolution, which we'll see Trish Stratus and Lita take on Mickie James. And as of right now, it still stands as Alexa Bliss, but with reports saying that Alexa Bliss suffered a concussion over the weekend at a live event, it might appear that Alicia Fox will be the one to take her spot if she is not cleared to return. So it'll be very interesting to see if she's ready to go or if Fox will take that spot. So that's very interesting. And then we head into SmackDown because I am recording this throughout the day of Wednesday, October 24th. So pretty much it'll, I'm just recording a day before this podcast comes out. So we head over to SmackDown, which was very interesting because what we saw was more safe play, I would assume, with the Crown Jewel pay-per-view and the Evolution pay-per-view. We saw the stuff that happened at the Performance Center between Becky and Charlotte, where Becky attacked Charlotte. So that just helps, just set up their last woman standing matchup at the Evolution pay-per-view, which is, I believe, the first time ever that they're doing a last woman standing. And I can actually see Charlotte winning the title at this one. I can see them want to make a change there. I don't see Nikki Bella defeating Ronda Rousey for the Raw Women's title, but I would not be surprised if Charlotte defeats Becky for that title, just so they have something big, as in a title change in place at that pay-per-view. Because I don't think they'll have a matchup for the title at Survivor Series. I think it'll be a team-on-team elimination match. So, very interesting dynamic here. I'm actually going to pull up the Evolution card. Meniac did say he was going to message me about his picks for Evolution. He has not, so sorry, bro. I guess we're just going to go with my predictions, I guess. So, yeah, I don't know really what else to say about that because, yeah, I got nothing from him. So, I'm pulling up the WWE Evolution card, but I'll just finish off what I thought of SmackDown, because we did see a main event between Jeff Hardy and Randy Orton, because those are two of the four men that are in that World Cup SmackDown bracket. We saw Randy Orton pick up the win after he reversed Twist of Fate into an RKO. Nothing really special about this match. A very good matchup. I think is highlighting these two going in, as they did earlier with Rey Mysterio being a host of Miz TV, setting up a match with The Miz. Rey Mysterio picking up the win there. Again, nothing really special there, just highlighting the fact that these competitors are in the World Cup going into Crown Jewel. We also saw another tag match between the Usos versus Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles, where this time it was AJ Styles who accidentally hit Daniel Bryan with a Pele kick that cost them the win. So the Usos again picked up a win there, and then we saw a little bit more dysfunction between AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan, whereas they had a promo afterwards, and both acknowledging that these were accidental shots, but Daniel Bryan was not it's more playing up the fact that he's not convinced that AJ was necessarily being honest, calling him Pinocchio and mentioning that his nose was growing more and more when he spoke. So, just saying, more or less saying, yeah, I think you're lying. So, it'll be very interesting to see where this goes. If they have AJ playing the heel role more so than Daniel Bryan. I don't see Daniel Bryan being a heel in this match. So it'll be very interesting on how they go in that direction. So, we saw Shane McMahon back and no Page, so it's very curious that we saw the commissioner, the commissioner, not the general manager, I guess. Is that how it is? Yeah. So, I don't know. But we just saw Shane McMahon there to promote Evolution, promote Crown Jewel. Nothing too special there, but always good to see Shane. I think Shane, I don't know what anybody else thinks, but I think his head is becoming very awkward shaped. It's weird. So, yeah, I don't know what to say, but I mean, look at Shane and take him back from like 20 years ago, and it's the evolution of his head. It's kind of weird looking. So, yeah, that's kind of what I have there. Again, I'm just pulling up the Evolution. It's also not hard. I'm actually also getting dressed, so trying to do 3 things at once here. So I'm actually, here we go. I got the WWE Evolution card right now. I'm going to start from the bottom of the card and work my way up. And the first match we have is Sasha Banks versus Bayley and Natalya versus the Riot Squad. In a 6-woman tag team match. And with Sasha Banks just coming back, I can't see her not get the win in this match. So I am going to say Sasha Banks submits Ruby Riott with the bank statement to win that match. We have a women's battle royal for a chance to claim a women's championship match. And I am going to kind of take a prediction and saying that I think Asuka or Nia Jax will win this Battle Royal. Those are my Raw SmackDown picks. So if a Raw competitor wins, I think it's Nia Jax. If it's SmackDown a competitor wins, I think it is Asuka. And then we have the tournament final match of the 2018 Mae Young Classic. And it is Io Shirai versus Toni Storm. And I do believe Io Shirai will take this. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go with Toni Storm. Now I'm kind of thinking about it with the whole WWE NXT UK kind of being a thing. I think Toni Storm is going to win this, and we're going to see a good showing out of Io Shirai. I think this is just going to add another accolade to Toni Storm going in, because I do believe she is going to challenge for the NXT UK Women's Championship after this event. So she is my pick for that match. And then we have a tag team match of Trish Stratus and Lita versus Mickie James and, as it sounds, Alexa Bliss, or possible Alicia Fox, depending on Bliss's condition. I'm going to go... I think this changes. I think Alexa Bliss will get the pin on Trish Stratus if those are the 4 in. If not the case, I think we will see Trish Stratus defeat Mickie James if Alicia Fox is in there. So yeah, that's kind of my my pick. And as of right now, it says Rhea Ripley will defend the NXT UK Women's title without anybody kind of named. And I do believe they did have someone named. I want to see who they have, because I remember them actually having someone, and I don't know if it was a Dakota Kai or someone else, but I do believe they had a match for that, and I'm not too sure who they had booked. So right now I'm just going to skip that for now and go on to the next match, which is the NXT Women's Championship, and that is Shayna Baszler getting her rematch against one NXT World Women's Champion. And why am I know, I'm sorry people, I'm just trying to find this one match, so I'm actually kind of missing out. And it's Kairi Sane against Shayna Baszler for the Women's Championship. I do believe Kairi Sane is going to keep her title here, because I only think out of the, I guess, 4 championships, I think we're only going to see one switch, and I do believe it's the last women's standing match, which is next, and that is Becky Lynch versus Charlotte Flair. I do believe they're going to have Charlotte Flair go over here, and I do believe they're going to, I think they might actually flip that title back and forth. I do believe Becky Lynch will get it back again, because I do think they'll end up pursuing a Charlotte Flair versus Ronda Rousey match for WrestleMania. So I wouldn't be surprised if Charlotte Flair wins this match and then goes on to drop the title and then possibly win the Royal Rumble on the women's side and then challenge Ronda Rousey for that title. And we get to that, which I do believe they'll put this as the main event, as Ronda Rousey versus Nikki Bella for the Raw Women's Championship. And I do think Ronda Rousey will win this match. Armbar, I think that is the most obvious prediction we will see. I can't find who Rhea Ripley was supposed to defend the title against, but I don't think it matters. She just won that title, so she is my pick to retain it, regardless of what happens. And as of right now, we're about 20 minutes into this podcast, not including the intros and everything. So I'm actually going to take a little bit of a break right now, because as I said earlier, I'm going to talk throughout the day. So I'm going to do a kind of in parts here. So I'm going to stop here, so that way if Meniac does get me his Evolution predictions, I will then read them to you guys. So if Malawini wants to strategically put a advertisement now, that would be appropriate.
Hello, friends. This is Spencer Love, your host of Over the Top Rope on the Win Column Sports Network. Don't forget you can head to wincolumnsports.ca for all of your previews, reviews, and breaking news from the world of wrestling, be it your major promotions or from the great province of Alberta, Canada. Now, back to Sounds of Struggle with your hosts, Chris Parrish and Meniac.
And I got a hold of Meniac, and he has given me his predictions for WWE Evolution, and only a couple differ from mine, as he has Becky Lynch defeating Charlotte, and I kind of hope she does. I think Becky Lynch is the MVP of the women's division right now. I think she's the most over, the most talented, and quite honestly, just in terms of momentum, she is the hottest woman right now in wrestling. I don't think Ronda Rousey and Charlotte is in the match they should go for at WrestleMania. I think it's Becky Lynch and Ronda Rousey, simply because of the fact that I think Becky Lynch is more over. I just think with the first ever female pay-per-view, they're going to look at trying to make a splash, kind of like how during the Superstar Showdown they had the Cruiserweight title change hands, and SmackDown 1000 you saw the tag team titles there change hands. I think they want to make these shows feel a little bit more special, so if you get to see a title switch, I think maybe it adds to that, because I don't see anybody turning. I don't know, unless you turn a Nia Jax or an Ember Moon. I don't even see that's a big, really a big story. But yeah, so then he also has, I believe, he actually has everything else the same. He has the team of Natalya, Sasha, and Bayley defeating the Riot Squad. On the text he sent me, does not like the Riot Squad, basically. Yeah, we'll just leave it at that, because maybe I'll bring him up next week and he can talk about him then, because I think the way he puts out his opinion is quite entertaining, so you kind of want to listen to that. And then he also has Kairi Sane over Shayna Baszler. He has Rhea Ripley retaining her NXT UK title. Also has Ronda Rousey defeating Nikki Bella, which I think, unless you're mentally challenged, you're gonna go the other way. Or you're just a giant Bella fan, and I just don't see there being a lot of those people. Well, the ones that I think are wrestling fans, I don't think are Bella fans, but that's just me. Everyone has their own tastes, I guess. Mine just don't include the Bellas at all. And then, what other matches? Oh yeah, he also has Trish and Lita defeating Mickey and Alexa. Again, I kind of gave two different scenarios, and that's kind of how I look at things. I looked at a scenario that if Alexa was in the match, you have option A. If Alexa is not in the match, you have option B. Now that I've had kind of more time to think about it, I think that if Alexa is not in the match and Alicia Fox is, in fact in the matchup, she might actually take the pin, just because I think at this point in the stage, Mickie James is higher up than Alicia Fox. As much as Meniac dislikes the Riot Squad, I dislike Alicia Fox. I don't understand how she's employed. I don't think she's entertaining. I don't think she's a good worker. I want to know who she's sleeping with, because that has to be the only way she has a job. And we all know Bad News Barrett left the company, so who knows? Yeah, and then I'm just trying to look at else on the card. I wonder if they're going to actually go forward with the all-female tag team titles as an announcement. That might be something big. That could be the big story that comes out of it instead of a title switch. So, I don't know. It'd also be very interesting to see. Oh yeah, and also for the Battle Royal for the title shot, he didn't really give a prediction. He just kind of said Tori Wilson's hot, so we'll go with Tori Wilson being his pick. Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. Tori Wilson is hot, so. But yeah, no, I don't know. I just have a feeling that they're either going to use this to help either repair what they've damaged in the booking of Asuka, or they might actually look at this as an opportunity to elevate, say, like an Ember Moon or an Nia Jax again. I personally would love to see Ember Moon get a push, but I know how Vince likes his monsters, and Nia Jax is considered a monster in the women's division. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm not going to lie, I'm not overly excited about watching the show. I am curious to see how it's going to be and what the flow of the show is going to be like. From what I heard, Michael Cole is doing the announcing, which I completely understand the reasoning why. I just don't know if I would do that myself. Just because there's something to be said about being an all-woman pay-per-view and then it's, called by a man. Like, it's just, I don't know. I think Renee Young, even though she's doing a great job on Raw, I don't think is ready for the lead role in the announcing. I think that might have played a factor into that decision. I can see, I know Beth Phoenix and Lita have tampered with the commentating duties in the past. I just don't know if they're gonna be a part of that. I guess too, yeah, I mean, you really have no idea. I mean, unless you have like Maria Menounos, I know she has done some stuff, but I don't know if anybody else is like me and finds her very annoying, but I don't know. I'm sure there's someone that could do that other than Michael Cole. It's just a matter of who that person could be, and I'm not really quite sure, but I don't know. If it was me, I would I would go around the world trying to find that perfect person to be that first female lead for the commentary team. Or, I would just, give Renee Young that opportunity. I mean, sink or swim, here's a chance. I mean, this is a first for everyone, so why not a first for her as well, I think. But I'd like to see Charlie Caruso on the announce team. I mean, that'd be interesting, unless she's going to do the backstage announcing duties, which also would make sense. I hope Lillian is doing the announcing or the national anthem. Unless she's part of the announce team, I wouldn't mind that as well. And then you can have JoJo being the ring announcer. But yeah. So I don't know. We also have Crown Jewel coming up. But we won't talk too much about that now, as it's it's further away. I mean, we can talk about it next week's episode. So I think we'll do that. I'll wait for Meniac to get back and have us actually talk about that together. I will mention that I don't know if this show is actually gonna go or be in Saudi Arabia. It seems very weird with how indecisive they still are. And I mean that as a WWE. It's like, I don't think they know if... It just feels like they don't know if they're going to do the show or not, or even do it in Saudi Arabia. There's rumors saying that both Daniel Bryan and John Cena don't want to do the show, which means you got to find another representative on the Raw brand for the World Cup, which could be very easy. You could just honestly have a match between Corbin and Elias and give it to one of them. I personally would prefer that. But then you need another competitor to vie for AJ Styles' WWE Championship. And so, I mean, and I don't know if you want to do Samoa Joe again, or if you want to do somebody completely different, but to me, it's just very interesting. I mean, you can always take like a Randy Orton out of the World Cup and put him into that championship match, and then find somebody else to put in the World Cup. And you can just flat out say that, or you can have a match between Ray and Randy on SmackDown, and the winner of that could get an opportunity at the title instead, since Ray beat Miz and Randy beat Jeff. I don't know. Not necessarily knowing if there's any truth to it, by the way. So, I mean, we can only speculate, and that's what we like to do as people. So we'll see what happens. Now in the world of outside wrestling, let's go to the world of baseball, where the World Series is underway. Boston Red Sox are up 1-0 on the Los Angeles Dodgers, sorry. And I don't know if the Dodgers have enough weapons to beat Boston right now. It all depends on how they do when it comes down to having home games, because JD Martinez is one of the best hitters in baseball, and he's the DH as of right now for Boston. And of course, we all know that when the World Series is in the National League's team's home field, like, there is no DH. The pitcher has to bat. So it'll be very interesting to see how they play with that situation, because I don't think you take JD Martinez out, but I don't necessarily think he's a guy that you want on your field unless there's something else that they have up their sleeve. But I mean, I guess it's not a bad situation, but with the bats clicking on all cylinders for the Red Sox, it's hard to imagine that you if you take one away, if there's anything that would be detrimental to that chemistry they have. So it'll be very interesting. I do predict that Boston will defeat the Dodgers in 5 or 6 games. Yes, that's a cop-out. I don't care. I'll say 6 then, just so you guys would get off my back then about the cop-out. I think the pitching of the Dodgers is really good, and I do think it's better than Boston. So we can always chalk it up to that. I think LA has pitching good enough to steal them 2 games at least. But I think Boston's bats are good enough to win them a World Series. So, yeah, I mean, that's just how it is. And then, for the NFL, my Saints are still kicking. We're 5-1 now. About to play the Minnesota Vikings, and I've kind of gone back and forth on how I feel about this game. At first, I was kind of worried. Now I'm kind of thinking, you know what? They got this. So, I mean, I'm not too worried. So, we'll see how it is. I do think the Rams and the Chiefs are unreal this year, and I am more worried about the Saints game against the Chiefs, against the Rams, than I am against the Vikings. So that's going to be a very interesting matchup when that comes into play. Yeah, so with the 7-0 record, I think the LA Rams are the team to beat. I mean, I personally think if you're going to go all in on a single offense in fantasy football, that's the best offense to go. Because you got Todd Gurley at running back, who's an absolute stud, probably the number 1 back in the NFL right now. So anybody who is saying Le'Veon Bell is the number 1 coming into this year, yeah, in your face, you stupid jerk. Because, he's not really doing anything right now. I think it's going into week 8, he's still not even reporting to camp, so... Yeah, and then you got Cooper Kupp and Brandon Cooks, and they're having pretty much an all right. And then you got Robert Woods. So I mean, you got 4 weapons right there. So if Jared Goff ain't getting you at least 20 points every week, then he's either running the ball too much, or he's just not getting it done, and he's not doing much. But he's been pretty solid. Patrick Mahomes this year has been unreal. And, so I think I made a trade out for him because I noticed somebody in one of my leagues just has had him on his bench the entire time. So I just offloaded a gigantic trade offer to try to get Mahomes. We'll see what happens. Even at this point, I'll be, okay with getting rid of Antonio Brown. It's a keeper league, so, I mean, if Patrick Mahomes has a lot more years left than Antonio Brown does. So, yeah, we'll see kind of where that goes. I don't know. Not too much has changed from my predictions from a couple weeks ago. Minnesota now is in top position of their division instead of Chicago. Even though a guy like Trubinsky, man, did I feel bad for him last week against the Patriots. The guy has that bomb at the end, and they just couldn't get that extra yard for him to get to the tie. He's been playing lights out this year. Having a guy like Khalil Mack on your defense really helps get the ball back to you. And, he's making a very good effort of making those possessions count. And then, outside of, that, the Rams, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Saints, I don't know. I think those are definitely the Rams and the Saints, I think, are probably the top 2 teams in that NFC, and the Chiefs are definitely one of the top teams in the AFC. And because the Patriots beat the Chiefs, you always have to stick them in there, and especially if they can get to the playoffs. You can never count them out. So that should be interesting. I'm very surprised with Jacksonville and just how they're not able to keep that momentum going offensively. I'm not necessarily surprised with Blake Bortles. I never really was sold on him as a quarterback, but I am surprised that he's not, like their defense isn't, putting them in positions to win the game. Their offense isn't doing enough to win the game. I don't think they have to score a lot of points. When you got one of those top defenses, you don't really have to do too much. You just have to be average. Constantly average. Sometimes be good. But if you have a great defense and you're below average, you're not going to help the cause at all. This comes to CFL. It looks like the Edmonton Eskimos are hanging on by a thread. Lost the BC Lions, established the BC Lions a playoff spot. So we got Calgary, we got Saskatchewan, and we got BC all in on the western side. They're all in so far. The only way Winnipeg doesn't win is if they lose to Calgary this week and then lose to the Eskimos, and then the Eskimos will go through onto the east side and be through that fun little rule that they have where they make it through the east and they would play, I believe it's Hamilton. I believe it's Ottawa and Hamilton in there. I think that's the two teams. But yeah, Montreal is just brutal, and I think it's Toronto who's the other team that's not doing too well. Might be getting Toronto and Hamilton mixed up here. Not too sure, but yeah, no. If one time where Edmonton fans are going for Calgary, it's going to be this week in the CFL because they hope the Winnipeg Blue Bombers choke. So it'll be very interesting. But if the Bombers win, then they're in, and I think that BC does a crossover, not Winnipeg. I think that's the case. And I think the Riders still have a shot of taking the West, if I'm not mistaken. If Calgary loses the next two and Saskatchewan wins out, I think they take the West. So it'll be interesting to see. Still a lot to play for because there is that home field advantage throughout. And I still think it'd be cool to see the Eskimos and the Stampeders in the Grey Cup, seeing how it's in Edmonton. And your boys, Tag Struggle, are going to the Grey Cup this year. So it'll be very interesting to see if there's a Battle of Alberta, because even if the Eskimos don't win the West, they would still have the big home field advantage, I would think. If it's it'd be kind of cool to see. I don't think Eastern Canada would give two fucks about a Battle of Alberta, but not everything revolves around the Eastern Canadian people. Come on. During hockey, all we hear about is how good the Leafs and Austin Matthews are, and how every year is their year. And then it's the Six with the Raptors, who actually are doing quite well. I think they're, 3 or 4-0 already on the year? Not too bad. Kawhi Leonard is playing amazing so far. Even though I think he's missed a game, they still won, so that was impressive. The Blue Jays just, man, they got a lot of work to do. Whew, man, does that team have some work to do. So we'll see what they do. Now what's, kind of what else in the sports world are we talking? We can't talk hockey. We just had Pittsburgh Penguins and the Edmonton Oilers play an overtime game, which was pretty exciting. 6-5, good scoring game. A lot of offense. McDavid and Crosby each netting 2 points in that game. I think Crosby had 2 goals and no assists. Then McDavid had 1 goal and 1 assist. I think it was just Hornquist, Olesiak, and Crosby getting the 6 goals. I think they each had 2. Whereas the Oilers had 2 from Draisaitl, 2 from Chason, who was very impressive in that game before he got struck in the ear with the puck and had to leave the game. He was on the verge of probably seeing a lot more ice time. And so we had 2 from Draisaitl, we had 2 from Chason, and then 1 from McDavid, so that'd be the 5. So there you go. Those are goal scorers. yeah, I think Crosby proved that he's still, I mean, everyone saw about McDavid and Matthews. Don't forget about Crosby. He's still one of the league's top players. I mean, there's stuff that guy can do that, even these younger guys can't do. So, I mean, as good as Matthews, as amazing as McDavid are, there's still some aspects of their game that they have yet to learn, whereas Crosby, I don't think there's anything he does wrong, but he's also not the best. I mean, he whines well. Like, he even whines pretty well. So, yeah, so, what? I mean, I've decided to kind of name this podcast after Jesse Puljujarvi and the pool party. He needs to get going. There's times where he has great shifts, and there's times where he just looks out of place, and he just needs more consistency in his game, and I think that's going to have a lot to do with his confidence. I don't think he's necessarily the most confident guy on the ice. You can see when Connor McDavid is on the ice, he knows he's one of the best, if not the best, on that ice. I would like to see Puljujarvi have that same mentality and that same attitude, because when he flies, and there's not a lot of people that keep going, and he has that reach, he has a shot, he has the skills, he just needs to put it all together still, and hopefully he does. And I think the big thing is, hopefully he does, and he does it with Edmonton, because there might be a situation coming up where you got to make a choice. Even though I hope they don't have to make that choice on whether or not they should move forward or go another way with Puljujarvi. I do hope that situation doesn't come into play. But I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, it's happened with Taylor Hall. It's happened with Jordan Eberle. Happened with multiple other people. I mean, hell, the Edmonton Oilers traded Wayne Gretzky, so anything's possible, right? But, I mean, I'd like to see a little bit more consistency out of that. I'd like to see a little bit more consistency out of the team and their defensive play, because, man, they're still making a lot of mistakes. I don't agree that they needed to have 6 goals against. And I didn't think they played that bad against Pittsburgh, but they still need to clean some areas up. I think their team defense and commit to that team defense would do wonders for them. That might even take some stress away from Talbot. And Talbot himself, I'm not going to say he's been playing lights out, because he has been. He's been pretty shaky at times too, but he is a good enough goalie to where if you help him enough out, he will get you that win. I do believe that. So, it just doesn't help when you let Sidney Crosby go through. It's no big deal. So, yeah, I'm not going to blame that goal on Ryan Strome, but, I mean, it's overtime. Sidney Crosby on the ice, you got to play him very tight, and you kind of didn't. So, you can have a long shift, but you got to be a little bit more accountable for your time management of how much you're on the ice. You can't get caught on a shift that long with Sidney Crosby in overtime, because he will take advantage of it. And that's what he did. So it's going to be quite interesting to see kind of how to... I mean, the Oilers still have played a pretty good schedule, a pretty tough schedule coming right off the bat. I mean, they've played Boston twice, they've played New Jersey once, they played Nashville once, they played Pittsburgh once, they played Winnipeg, and they played the Rangers, and then they play Washington next. So I mean, that's a pretty heavy schedule, and they're 3-1 after 7 games. So I mean, still respectable. I mean, if they can be, I want them to be a little bit north of 500 after their first 20 games, but I mean, if they're 500, they're not out of it. So, and with the teams that are playing right off the bat, I mean, it's the fact that they're getting at least the point out of the Pittsburgh games. Hopefully, they can get a point or two out of the Washington game. They beat Winnipeg. They beat the Rangers. They, already split with Boston. And I think they're playing Nashville again, so they hopefully can avoid getting burnt by them twice. And I think they have a little bit of retribution, hopefully, because they did get shut out at home by Nashville already. So hopefully they have a little bit of an extra jump when they play them the next time around. So, and I think they're playing Nashville quite soon. So, not the world's easiest schedule, but at the same time, it'll keeps you honest, and it'll make you feel like you're working for it, and it'll bring a team together too. A good game will bring a team together, and they're playing some good teams, so they have to play good hockey if they want to win. And right now they're not playing horrible, so I like their compete. Their compete level against Pittsburgh was pretty good. Not once did it look like they quit in that game, so it was nice to see that. So, yeah. So outside of that, I'm going to go back to wrestling because we're going to talk a little bit NXT. Sounds like, from what it is that they have Johnny Gargano as kind of the scapegoat of the man who attacked Aleister Black, which is quite interesting. Interesting to see where that takes, and if they take that to the next level of Black and Gargano in a feud. That should be interesting. I don't know if they're going to do Velveteen and Tommaso Ciampa, and I don't know if that's kind of where they're going. The War Game match seems to be 2 teams, 8 men. So kind of back to the old school. Hopefully it's 2 guys starting every minute or 2. Another guy comes into the fray. But it looks to be all 4 members of the Undisputed Era with a returning Bobby Fish. So Bobby Fish, I believe, is back. So that's a good sign. Against the team of the War Raiders, Ricochet and Pete Dunne. And I'm not going to lie, I'm kind of a little bit upset that Mustache Mountain is not in the format War Raiders. I'm quite surprised that they don't have Pete Dunne and Mustache Mountain kind of being a little bit more of that team, but maybe it's a way to keep them away from the tag titles right now. Not too sure. Or maybe they're going to just be focused more on the NXT UK tag titles, so that could be a thing as well. And then, they have Nikki Cross and Bianca Belair doing their thing. I wouldn't be surprised if they do a Bianca Belair Kairi Sane women's match. A takeover, or even a triple or 4-way. Wouldn't be surprised that by any means. My thing is I'm not a big fan of the tag titles not being defended this show. And then you don't even have the North American title. So that's 2 out of the 4 titles not being defended because you have the tag champions and Kyle O'Reilly and Roddy Strong, and then the North American champion and Ricochet in the same match. And it's not for a title, so to me that's a little bit of a letdown. So it'll be interesting to see, though. I mean, those takeover specials always kill it. Always are amazing shows, so we'll definitely talk more about that as it gets nearer. So, that being said, I mean, I don't know if I have that much more to talk about. To be quite honest. I mean, Big Show turned heel, but I mean, who cares? I mean, within the last week, he turned heel to help the Bar become the new SmackDown Tag Team Champions. Kind of surprising that Big Show was used in that position, but not surprising that he made a flip. Even Big E's on SmackDown this week said he's flipped more times than a flapjack. So, I mean, I have to agree with him on that one. So, I'm also very curious just to see that direction, though, with Dean Ambrose. So, going back to that, very curious on long-term booking with him. Is he even going to be on Raw come the next Superstar Shake-Up? I would love to see Rollins and Ambrose have a program all the way to the shake-up, and then the shake-up, there you go, you can shake that one up. Maybe you move Rollins to SmackDown. I don't know. That could be a very interesting one, too. I would like to see a guy like Aleister Black come up to the main roster after on the next shake-up. And if I had my choice, I'd probably call up about 8 people. 4 of them being Undisputed Era. Another one being Tommaso Ciampa. Another one being Aleister Black. And you can probably throw either a Gargano into that mix, or even an EC3, to be honest. I personally also would like to see Cassius Ohno on the main roster and have him and Cesaro reunite as a tag team and let Sheamus kind of run solo a little bit. That wouldn't be bad. Have a little 3-group faction there. But wishful thinking, right? But I think that's going to do it for this week's episode. Going to keep it short, so next week is a little bit more of a heavy-hitting episode. So I am Chris Parrish. I am one half of Tag Struggle. And we're real. We are spectacular. I guess I got to talk about what's coming up. This week, I'm going to be at the Headlock of Horrors 3 show in Red Deer for the Canadian Wrestling Coalition as Drew Dawkins and I team up to go against the Wrecking Crew in a no disqualification elimination tag match for the CWC Tag Team titles. So that one should be an absolute war. Anytime I get a chance to put my hands on Sean Martins, I'm looking for the kill, and I think I'm gonna beat Dorito Dean so bad he's gonna turn a cool ranch color. I don't know. He likes his Doritos, people. That's what I know. Maybe I'll just buy a thing of Doritos and crush it in front of his face and see if he cries. Wouldn't it be funny to see Dean Richter cry? I think that might do it. I think crushing Doritos in his face, especially if they're Cool Ranch Doritos, if you crush those in front of his face, he might cry. It might be very interesting. Might have to try it. More of a bull barbecue. It's alright, but, who doesn't like a bold once in a while, people? But yeah, that's where I'm going to be this weekend. And then Sunday night, I'm going to be glued to my TV watching my boys, them Saints, take on Vikings. So yeah, Saints go marching down. Who Dat Nation represent. So yeah, I'm Chris Parrish. Keep it real, keep it spectacular, keep it stragalicious, people. Because that's a little bit of alright. And I'm out. So later, bitches.
When your heart's pounding out of your chest, you can feel the shaking as you're running out of breath.